Spring is everywhere across the U.S. today, although it might not be the way you want it. A nice, but with a spring chill in the Northeast and northern Mid-Atlantic states, severe weather in the plains, a fire risk in parts of the Southwest and into Texas, and winter still lingering in the northern plains and the northern Rockies. But nowhere do we see any widespread heat, and that's not coming anytime soon. All that and more tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show on the Thursday night, the 28th, Joe, the 28th of April.
Yes.
And it definitely felt like, if you looked at the numbers today with average most highs in the mid to upper 50s and lows that were in the 30s last night, this is really probably typical early November weather. It really is.
It is. A lot of people, one guy sarcastically said to me on Facebook, he says, I really am not enjoying this month of November.
Yeah.
And it does feel very much like November out there. I mean, this morning my low temperature was 37. Yes, it was not down near freezing, but still cold enough. Probably even a bit colder tonight. And there are freeze warnings, I believe, that are in effect
Yes.
over a good chunk of New Jersey. That
Yes.
amazing?
Yes, there are. And at least with the wind, there's no frost. Meanwhile, I was probably around 36 or 37 this morning, like you, but I made it up to 72 this afternoon with blue skies and
Show off.
sunshine all day long. Everything is green, everything's bloomed. All the spring, like the azaleas have already bloomed and died, and the daffodils are long gone and the tulips are long gone, so we've already had that. Actually, I was trying, we had the daffodils start to come out here in February, late February, early March, so we get them early. But
How about the?
it was
Do you have
a nice
Do you have
day.
magnolias? Do you have
Magnolias,
magnolias?
magnolias here in the South. Everybody has magnolias. They do. Oh, they
Never touch a
do. They
mag.
do.
Never touch a magnolia blossom. Do you know what happens when you touch a magnolia blossom?
They fall apart.
They turn brown.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I learned that from the late great Barry Farber, who was a longtime talk show host here in New York. He spoke like 18 different languages, Joe. He knew every language under the sun, but he had a distinct Southern accent. And for whatever reason, one night, I don't know why I remember this, but he asked one of his guests, do you know what happens when you touch a magnolia blossom? And the guest said, no. He says, turns brown. To which the guest, who was humorous Gene Shepard, who was another great voice on radio, Gene Shepard said to Barry Farber, who you or the magnolia blossom? And Barry said, I never tried.
Yeah, I wonder
But
what I
but
wonder what.
magnolias come out like what, in the early or middle part of April,
Mhm.
and are gone by the end of April usually. So um, I don't even know if the magnolias had a chance this year with all the chilly weather that we've had up here. We did have a few days where it was very warm. In fact, there was one day, I forgot already what it was, but there was one day we actually approached or reached 80 in some areas. But such periods of or bouts of mild weather or warm weather have been very short-lived.
I had a magnolia at my house, and it only happened once or twice. I don't know if it had to do with the weather conditions, but it bloomed in the spring, and then it bloomed again in the early fall. It was, but not completely. It was just a few blooms that popped out in the early fall. It was just, it's really weird. By the way, you know who spoke six languages? I'm sorry, seven
Who?
languages. Yeah, Ingrid Bergman.
Who?
Ingrid Bergman.
Really?
Yes, and do you know what
Wow.
John Gielgud said about that?
No, but you're going to tell me.
Yes, Ingrid Bergman is fluent in seven languages. She can't act in any of them.
Let me ask a question. Did
Yes.
he ever go out with Betty Davis? They
Uh,
could have traded quips about various
no,
people they didn't like.
actually, no. Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to make this a joke, but I'm having trouble. But definitely, Tallulah Bankhead would have made great company with John Gielgud, gossiping about everybody
Yes,
else, or Dorothy Parker, who said when they
or
told her
Dorothy Parker.
yes, who said when they told her that Calvin Coolidge died, she responded, "How can you tell?"
Silent Cal.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Somebody once, a woman reporter walked up to Calvin Coolidge and said, "Mr. President, I'll bet that I can get you to say more than two words after I ask you a question." And Calvin Coolidge looked at the woman straight in the eye and said, "You lose."
Yes, exactly. Yes. Then there was the famous, remember the columnist, well, you and I remember him, Earl Wilson, the
Earl
column
Wilson.
Earl
That's
Wilson,
Earl, brother.
right? Earl Wilson asked Tallulah Bankhead, "Darling, has anybody ever mistaken you for a man?" Well, he said, "No, I'm sorry. Has anybody ever respect?" He asked Tallulah Bankhead, "Has anybody ever mistaken you for a man?" And Tallulah responded without missing a beat. She said, "No, darling. How about you?" Oh God.
Maybe you know some of my friends, like Earl of Wilson,
Yes.
Satchmo of Armstrong,
Right. I have a whole
sirloin of the liver.
no, cirrhosis of liver.
No, cirrhosis of the
Right.
liver.
It
Yeah.
was it was sirloin of beef. Oh well. Anyway.
All right.
All right. So we got
Off to the weather we go.
yes, and we've been talking about the block yesterday, and it's I was looking at things today, and it's funny that but it's reality how little shifts here and there could make a huge difference. And we've got this double low structure. In fact, let me just I've got a couple of graphics we could bring up about this. Just give me a moment here. But we've got this double low structure that's out in the Atlantic. While I'm loading the map, let me just say hello to everybody on the chat board and welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. I'm Joe Chaffee, and my colleague to my left is Joe Rayo. Hope you like the show, and if you do, hit the like button. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel by using your Gmail account, and from there, you can get notifications every time the Joe and Joe Weather Show is on, which is usually Sunday at 11 a.m. and Monday through Thursday at 4 a.m. But we do have schedule changes coming up for the month of May, so we will announce those as we go along. But take a look at this,
What did
Joe.
you say about four? What did you say about 4 a.m.?
I didn't say anything about 4 a.m.
You just said four. Didn't he, folks on the
Did I
chat
say
board? Did you
4
not hear
a.m.?
him say? He said 4 a.m.
Did I? Oh no, no, no. I
And
guess
I just want.
no. I'm sorry. 11 a.m. on Sunday and 7:30 p.m. on Monday through Thursday. I don't know why I said 4 a.m. Uh,
It might be fun to do a 4 a.m. show once,
no,
just to see whether or
no,
not
I
anybody
don't.
would wake up.
No, I don't think so. No, no, I don't think so. But take a look at this. We've got this. This is the upper air for tonight at 2 a.m., which is close enough to reality. And you've got this basically this double block structure in the Atlantic. You've got a blocking high that's building over the top of these two lows. One sitting over Nova Scotia, the other is sitting west of the Azores, and of course that has put us in this cold but dry northerly flow. And they've been pretty much sitting there through since yesterday and today, and they're going to be there tomorrow for a little while, and then you're going to start to see this pull to the east. But this is what it looks. This is what it looks like right now. But if we take a look, and I'll bring up uh, for day 7, so a week from today, you've got and in between. By the way, the blocking lows that are out there now pretty much disappear, but then we get two others that reform. The difference is that these two, if the models are correct, these two are going to be a little bit further to the north. Well, the first one's going to be a little bit further to the northeast, up in Labrador, and the other one is going to be a fair distance northwest of the Azores. So this actually will allow, or should allow, room for what looks to be some Pacific energy that drops down into the plains, and then that's going to be forced to slide eastward underneath those two blocking lows. This is for the end of next week. So I think we still have a chance. Now there are some things that could happen that may prevent this from going on, but I think we still have a chance for I wouldn't call it a full blown nor'easter, but I think it certainly uh, could be a storm system that passes off the mid Atlantic coast and produces northeast winds and uh, rain and doom and gloom, or gloom and doom if you like it worded the other way around, for late next Thursday into Friday. And we also have two other weather systems during next week that are going to be ahead of this. So the bottom line is that uh, the pattern really isn't changing very much through next week. But I will say two things, Joe. If this Whether this plays out or not, just the overall general look of the upper air suggests that Mother's Day weekend will be a, let's call it a chilly but mostly dry weekend. The other thing I would say is looking at the longer term, that maybe by mid-month we might see a little bit of a pattern shift that will get rid of this block for at least for now.
Actually, Joe, and I was looking beyond next week and took note of the fact that the following week, let's say around the what you're just talking about here about this potential coastal system, that would probably be for late next week, say either
Right.
the 5th or the 6th of May. But coming the following week, say around the 12th or 13th of May, again, if you want to look all the way that far ahead, it seems like the pattern is repetitive to a degree. Yet another close low seems to be, at least on the longer range models, developing over portions of the Central Plains states for a couple of weeks from now. And that one, I don't know, it seems like that one is going to get kind of stuck, maybe even get pushed or nudged off of the coast of the Carolinas as high pressure tries to build from central and southern Canada. We've got a similar setup for next week, but that may try to repeat that
Yeah,
same type of pattern.
I'm just
Yet
looking at this. Yeah,
again,
I'm seeing this. Yeah, the upper low after next week winds up sitting over Newfoundland on this run, and another arm kind of drops down and rotates around with a kind of a diving shortwave that goes into the Carolinas, and then just moves out to the east. That's pretty interesting. So maybe it'll have to be after the 15th to get this out of the way. Uh, Sometimes you're in a pattern sometimes, and the models oftentimes like to start breaking it down at the end of the forecast period, but in reality, they wind up staying a lot longer than advertised or invited. So don't be too shocked if I'm going to still be cautiously optimistic that after next weekend we may see a bit of a break. But you know what? I can also see how it won't happen. So
yeah,
that's not going to make some people too happy. They're throwing curse words on my Facebook page over, well, one person in particular who apparently probably needs, well, I'm not gonna comment, but I had to tell him to watch his language, or I'm gonna get Sister Charles Edwards to drop in over at his house.
oh, if not Sister Charles Edwards, Douglas Edwards will do too, I guess, right?
Yes.
Uh, it's interesting here that I'm sharing a screen here now.
Okay.
The risk of hazardous temperatures from the Climate Prediction Center from the CPC, and you can see if the view is up now that
Yep.
they have a broad area covering much of the Northeast, the Ohio Valley, almost down into the Tennessee River Valley, and then across into the Central Plains and Western Lakes region. This broad area here showing the slight risk of what they call hazardous temperatures. And I guess hazardous in the sense that we've got unusually chilly or cold temperatures for, again, the second week of May. The second week of May. Now, this would be from the 6th to the 8th of May. That would be, let's see, that would be, if I'm looking at my calendar properly
Well, this
here,
this map is
6th to the 8th of May. That's next week, not this weekend, but next weekend. That would be Mother's
right.
Day weekend.
Mother's Day. Yes.
So you would be correct in the sense, Joe, that the forecast is suggesting a dry, albeit rather chilly, if not perhaps cold weather for that weekend. Also, yeah, I'm correct at that. It'll be the first Saturday of May, and that will also include the Kentucky Derby. And it looks like
Yes.
the Kentucky Derby may be unusually dry, albeit unusually cool as well. And I should also mention on this same map that there is a slight chance of hazardous temperatures, but in red here in western and central Texas, which seems to indicate that if you're anywhere down in this zone, which would include places like El Paso and Amarillo or whatever like that, that you might be seeing temperatures soaring to or even above 90, or dare I say, maybe approaching triple digits. And there's another zone of unusually cool weather that envelops much of the Pacific Northwest and portions of the southwestern states, including Nevada, Utah, and northern Arizona. Joe, it seems like for the most part, when we get to the second week of May, if this all pans out, I would say about at least 50% or more of the country will be undergoing unusually cool temperatures, except again for folks here in western central Texas, which may be seeing unusually warm or hot conditions.
Yeah, we have on the watches and warnings tonight a large area of red flag warnings from southern Nevada, including Las Vegas, across northern Arizona, all of New Mexico, a good chunk of southeastern Colorado, southwestern Kansas, western Oklahoma, and a good chunk of West Texas, with various wind advisories and high wind warnings and high wind watches that are up there as well. We've got some severe weather issues to talk about for the next 2 days, tonight and then again tomorrow. Flash flood watches up for eastern North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. And winter storm warnings up for parts of west central Montana, and with some winter weather advisory surrounding that. Here in the east, freeze warnings for just about all of New Jersey, much of southeast and south central Pennsylvania into central and western Maryland and northwestern Virginia, also in southwestern PA and western PA into eastern Ohio. So definitely unusually cool. And we still have 3 counties in northern Maine with winter sweater advisories that are in effect. Beautiful satellite loop tonight. The storm that's off sitting over at Nova Scotia just sort of not moving very much. It's been stationary, which is, at least the upside in the blocking pattern is when you get into these sweet spots like this, you do wind up with plenty of sunshine. Unfortunately, the upper low is so deep that we've gotten all this colder air. Now, a bit of good news is that the temperatures are going to start bouncing a little bit tomorrow across the northeast and mid-Atlantic states, and they're going to bounce a little bit more toward the weekend. I think Saturday and Sunday we should be close to average for this time of year, but I don't think we're going to go beyond that.
No, but one thing about you mentioned about the good part about having a blocking pattern. The negative part about the blocking pattern is that swirl of clouds associated with that rather intense or robust storm system to the north and east of Maine has been buffeting our area, Joe. This is the second consecutive day where the winds here in the tri-state area have been on average in gusts now 30 to 40 miles
Yep.
per hour. I mean, today at my house, I'm surrounded on 3 sides by tall trees. Still yet to, I'm still waiting for the buds and on a lot of those trees to appear, but they were swaying back and forth in those gusty, strong winds during the day today. The winds are still going to be a bit on the breezy side tonight. That'll probably preclude frost conditions again. But tomorrow, not as blustery as what we've seen over the day on Wednesday and Thursday, but still the winds will be active. They'll still be rather busy out there during the day tomorrow. And I mentioned also a few moments ago about how much of the northeastern United States would be, well, much of the country, much of the region in the east underneath that zone of below normal temperatures, or the chance for unusually chilly or cold temperatures would be cold and dry. And I mentioned the Kentucky Derby. No, the Kentucky Derby may be chilly or cold if for this time of the year, but as far as precipitation is concerned, look at this: from the 6th to the 8th of May, this zone that you see down here encompassing or enveloping the Tennessee and Mississippi River Valley, which also includes Louisville, would be under the gun for a slight risk of heavy precipitation. So that may mean that leading into the Derby, we'll keep an eye on it for you because I know how much of a big horse fan Joe is. We may have wet conditions for this year's Derby, or at least the track may be wet or it may be muddy. Joe, it may turn out to be the big race this year, Mudder's
Well,
Day on Saturday.
well, There are going to be three weather systems to look at next week that are going to be rolling across. And by the way, my apologies. Here's the satellite loop. I forgot to switch back before, but here's the satellite loop. One good thing about this spinning low, if you want the weather nice, at least it's keeping it that way. Now, normally, if we're starting to see stuff develop across the plains and those clouds that are in the lakes and in the western part of the Ohio Valley, that would normally be moving eastward. But the low to the east is so strong that all of that is just not. It's not going to get here. It's just simply not going to get here, and it's not going to be until Monday that we're going to have enough room for this traffic jam to break down. So, and the block, by the way, is impacting weather both in the plains and obviously also in the northern Rockies and Northwest because if these systems can't move eastward, they're just going to be sitting there. And the plains in particular, if you notice, there's two distinct blowups of clouds across Nebraska. I think is that Nebraska? Yeah, across Nebraska tonight. You see them right there on the last few frames. Uh, that's some of the potential for some severe weather tonight. But tomorrow is going to be a much more extensive potential for an extensive outbreak. Here's the radar tonight. So all these showers that you see in Indiana and Illinois and down into Missouri, they're not coming here. And there's your snow, the back edge of the snow into Maine. If this were January or February or March, this probably would be dumping quite a bit of snow over New Brunswick and in eastern Maine and sticking just about everywhere. Meanwhile, there's all the activity going on in Wyoming and back up through much of the Northwest, and some of that being in the form of snow. And here's the thunderstorms we're talking about tonight in eastern Nebraska. We've got looks like about half a dozen severe thunderstorm warnings up there, and a couple of them, one popped up there in southern Nebraska as well. The Storm Prediction Center tonight has a small area of slight risk in western Nebraska, but a fairly large area of marginal risk that meanders from West Texas up through Kansas into Nebraska and then west across Wyoming and into eastern Idaho. But take a look at, by the way, the tornado risk today in that slight risk zone and some of the marginal risk zone is at 2%. But take a look at tomorrow. We've got an enhanced risk of severe weather being indicated by the Storm Prediction Center from north central Oklahoma northward through much of eastern Kansas and touching southeastern Nebraska. And with that, it's going to come with a tornado risk of 10% in the enhanced risk in
Right.
a very large area of 5%. So we could have a fairly uh, fairly active outbreak tomorrow in the Central Plains.
Let's. I think partially we can attribute that to is the fact that we're in this block pattern, and it's kind of like the atmosphere is pushing and shoving in one direction and not getting anywhere, and so as a result, you have that area of potentially severe weather kind of squeezed or concentrated into one specific region. And as you just pointed out, Joe, that extends from southeastern Nebraska down across eastern sections of Kansas and into northern Oklahoma. So it'll be most interesting to be there. If you're one of those storm chasers, I'm sure they're just salivating over that. Why, I don't know, because there's some people who just love to drive into that kind of weather. I myself will just simply say, well, if you live there, good luck.
Yeah,
Dorothy!
yeah, no, it's not my cup of tea.
Dorothy!
Yeah. There's the WPC's earlier rainfall forecast map, which I will now freshen, and there it is. So now this takes us to Thursday evening of next week. So we're starting to get into that low for late next week with some of the precip. But for the most part, with the two systems coming for Monday and again on Wednesday, not a whole lot is being produced, anywhere from just a tenth to a quarter of an inch for both of those. But you just go to the west, back into Pennsylvania, and especially when there's seedling disturbances, and with what's going on there tonight, a lot of areas in the Dakotas, through eastern Nebraska, most of Missouri, eastern Kansas, eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, showing 2.5 to 3.5 inch rainfall amounts over the next 7 days. A fairly large area east of the Rockies of an inch or more over the next 7 days. So the no drought issues in the east, but you can see the Southwest particularly New Mexico, Arizona, most of Nevada, central and southern California, southern Utah, southern Colorado, just just absolutely bone dry. And no sign of that
Yeah,
changing
and
anytime soon, by the way.
it's almost like an invisible dome is situated right over the Southwest, the desert Southwest, just absolutely precluding. And meanwhile, in the nation's heartland, I don't suspect that in the immediate future we're going to hear any of the farmers out there complaining about the lack of any moisture. Certainly for the corn and whatever they
And
grow out
wheat.
there at this time of the year, there is more wheat that it looks like to be more than ample amounts of moisture. Maybe, who knows? There might even be more than enough, too much maybe. It's in this situation, you either have too little of one thing or too much of another. That's really amazing to see all of that moisture over the central part of the nation over the
Yeah.
next 7 days.
There is a long-term, there's a long-term, intermediate term, I should say, an intermediate term drought that's being alleviated by all of this. So I don't think they're going to be complaining too much about the rain. So the pressure gradient in the Northeast, as we look at the latest run of the GFS, and the European wasn't too different today. Very tight and remains tight overnight into tomorrow morning. Later tomorrow afternoon and evening, the gradient ever so slightly begins to ease, and then it eases a bit more Friday night, later Friday night and Saturday, and we've got this little higher pressures that's just sort of sandwiched in between the low to the east, which is finally pulling away, and then of course you've got this developing low in West Kansas here on Friday morning that deepens and moves up into northwestern Iowa by Saturday afternoon. And of course, this is going to be the mechanism to trigger off the severe weather that's being indicated by the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow. Also, you can see a little bit of snow there up in the northern Rockies, and there's no cold air to support another snowstorm with this low in the Dakotas this time around. So that's a plus. They've already had two big storms uh, in the last 2 weeks. I don't think they really want a third. And that low, again, because of the block, gets forced more to the northeast into the lakes. Then finally it starts to move eastward. But at this point, it begins to lose most of its support. So a lot of the rain with this, uh, it looks like Sunday afternoon, there'll be some rain showers back in PA, down in Virginia, and in eastern Ohio and West Virginia. But by the time it gets here, late Sunday night, early Monday morning, there's just not a whole lot left with it. Then here comes the next one, a low down in New Mexico, which of course the dry areas completely missed the rain out of this. But you can see where we've got potential for severe weather on Sunday in parts of Oklahoma. And then again on Monday, further east. Here's another developing low in southeastern Kansas, and that is going to run northeast toward Michigan. Although I want to watch this a little carefully. It might wind up being a little flatter and maybe a little further south. We'll see. This brings maybe some showers here along about Wednesday, but again, doesn't look like a whole lot to worry about. But now we've got, look at this sprawling high. There's a 1034 high sitting to the east of Lake Winnipeg. And then here comes the next system, which is the strongest of the bunch in terms of the shortwave trough in the upper atmosphere. There's a low there near St. Louis on Thursday. And of course, with the block in place, if you look on the upper right, you can see there is a low there that is the edge of a low that is back up in northeastern Canada. Well, guess what? That is going to force this low, as we showed you earlier, if the features are correct, to go straight east. So it tracks of southern Indiana to West Virginia and then offshore. And that, by the way, if the upper feature with this is a more closed off as it moves eastward, I wouldn't be surprised. And the models actually is showing a little bit of snow there on the northern edge of this. I wouldn't be surprised
Oh, please.
if that winds up happening in parts of upstate New York, depending on how, depending on if there's an upper, really, there's a viable upper low feature. It may just wind up weakening as it moves eastward. But look, the bottom line is, if this verifies next Thursday, later Thursday night and Friday, much of eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England is going to be raining and in the 40s. And we're talking maybe low and mid 40s. This is going to be pretty miserable if it winds up verifying.
Yeah, yeah. It would be. shades of last Memorial Day weekend where we had temperatures in the 40s and to around 50 with cloud filled skies and on and off periods of rain and drizzle. And that was in late May. This is only into the early part of May. But, and I used to, to me, I don't know what it is, but I used to associate May with the beginnings of, you know, a long term dry and pleasant and, that kind of weather. And it seems to me like in recent years, in the month of May, we've had none of that. We've had just the opposite. I mean, my goodness, we had what, snow in 2020 in the early May, on the 9th of May. And last year, as I just said, Memorial Day was blech. And now it looks like we're going into the same kind of for the first week or two of this month of May. I don't know what it is, Joe, but May is not so pretty anymore.
We've had we've always had, I believe, if you look back, and there have been rare years where it hasn't been, but most of the time it's kind of like this, where uh, you wait till maybe about mid May, and we often talk about you waiting for that switch to be flipped to a warmer pattern. It just seems though that in recent years it's been uh, how do I want to put this? It's been that the pattern, the signature has been much stronger and has lasted longer than it did years ago. Now, I don't know why that's the case. These things run cyclically. We've talked many times. We've talked about how it seems like the summer's it's been extended into September, and the falls start late and they're shorter, and then we, flip over to winter sometime in late December or January. Most often in January. Uh, December, there was a stretch there where December was participating in the winter months. The last few years it hasn't been, but one of these years it'll probably come back. But it's just kind of, it's kind of interesting, all these little cyclical twists and turns that the weather takes over the course of decades.
Well, to me, what we're going to be looking at now, this would be like a look over the next, 10 or 15 days. I think what we'll be looking at here is that we're going to see unseasonably cool weather, which will persist here into at least the first part of the upcoming weekend. Then I think we're going to see a nice warming trend. And we'll see temperatures during the early to middle part of next week reach into the 60s, dare I say, for some, might even get as high as the 70s by the time we get to, let's say, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. But then we have another change back to that surge of unseasonably cool weather. Remember, we talked about that earlier as we move into the latter part of next week into not this weekend, but the following weekend, Mother's Day weekend. It suddenly turns very cool again in and around our area with another round of possible wet weather. But interestingly, Joe, and this will be it, we'll see if this really takes shape. Remember, we've been talking about how, you get into a stretch where it doesn't seem to want to warm up for any length of time, that we're constantly getting surges of unusually cool weather. Back me up on this if you agree. By about the middle of next month, by the middle of May, there's going to be a ridge building in the central part of the United States. And it looks like it's going to be turning not only just warm, but it looks like it conceivably could be turning just downright hot across places like Iowa and Missouri and Arkansas and Tennessee or whatever. And that building ridge, flexing its muscles and beginning to strengthen, may, by the time we get into the middle part of next month, middle of May, begin to extend into our neck of the woods. And who knows, maybe the second half of May will be just the antithesis, the opposite of what we're going to see in the first half. That is unseasonably warm, if not downright hot,
Yeah.
along with a stretch of rather dry weather. So and again, this is a long range forecast, and Lord only knows it's going to verify or not. But right now, if I were pressed, I would say that May looks like a 50-50 split between cool and damp for the first half of the month to a transition to warm, if not downright hot and dry for the second half of the month. We'll see if that indeed does pan out.
Well, if you look at the overall pattern and you want to make a case for the fact that the blocking pattern may have started sometime in um, early April or middle April. So if it lasts from middle April to mid May, that's about 4 weeks. Oftentimes, patterns last about 4 to 6 weeks before they change. Sometimes they can last for 2 to 3 months. Those are rare. But I would think that my original idea the last few days was that after mid-month that we'd start to see a relaxation of the block and at least temperatures trending back to warmer or maybe even a little bit above normal. I'm not 100% sure about whether I'm not 100% sold yet, but I can see what you're saying. But I want to give it a little more time.
Okay, so we'll see. Chuck Cardillo writes, we've had 5 consecutive Mays with measurable snow. That would be, I guess, in his immediate area,
And when the
and
Western Catskills, yes.
in the Western Catskills. So we'll see. But then again, another thing that we could look forward to or look for is the possibility that sometime during the month of May we see the ocean temperatures or the ocean waters begin to get active, and maybe we might see a tropical system, which has appeared. I think 8 out of the last 10 years we've had a named tropical cyclone. Will this be yet another example, or will this be one of the rare times when we don't see that situation in the month of May?
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading a piece last night about that it goes into the reasons why the Hurricane Center about talking about making the season and making May, making the start of the season earlier. It was interesting. It was a point that I didn't even think about, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. And I know the chairman, Scott Burler, sent me a link to it earlier this morning. But one of the arguments that they made, I think it makes sense, is that if they start the season in May, it means that all the preparedness stuff that they do publicly will usually be done prior to the start of the hurricane season. So they would have to do that in late April. And since the peak of the
Right.
season, is really from mid-August to mid-October in terms of the most active period, that's a lot of time to pass between when you do this sort of, public relations preparation stuff and the beginnings of what usually is the real threat time. Because major hurricanes, before there aren't that many major hurricanes that have occurred. I mean, there have been some, but there haven't been that many major hurricanes that have occurred in June or July. So it's usually the vast majority of them are in August to October. So I kind of could see I think the point is valid uh, to just leave things the way they are, because that's a concern of theirs, and I think it's a valid concern.
I did not realize that in 1935 the hurricane season started on July 1st, and then in 35 they changed it to start on the 15th of June, and then in 1965, and we were around, Joe, in 1965, they decided they were going to change again from the 15th of June to where we are now, the 1st of June. And now, as we just mentioned, after the last decade or so, some are pushing for the hurricane season to begin on the 15th of May. Kind of amazing
Yeah.
that in this, going back to the early 20th century, it has shifted all the way from the 1st of July, that now we're talking about the beginning of the hurricane season possibly beginning now as early as the 15th of May. I guess that's a sign of climate change or global warming to a degree, but it makes things all the more interesting
Well,
if you're
they also
into
pointed
tropical
out they
systems.
also pointed out in the article that uh, the the fact that the technology is there now, where they're finding that these systems are tropical storms, where years ago they most likely just escaped, because most of the time when they form in May, they're going to wind up being out in the ocean somewhere. But
Oh, absolutely.
that the technology now allows them to pick up on these storms that they couldn't see back in the day. So which
And
that
you
also
pointed
makes
out that
sense.
and you pointed out that in looking back over the records and now using modern technology and modern analysis, that they are starting to look at storms that they did not consider to be of a tropical nature or worthy of getting a name. That they're now looking at that and saying, "Hey, we should have called that one a tropical storm, or we could have called that one a hurricane, or whatever." Based upon, again, looking back over the record. So maybe it's not the change in terms of the timing of the tropical season, the tropical storm and hurricane season, may not be quite as dramatic. And again, we over the last 2 or 3 years, those of you who have followed us and have watched us in the months of, let's say, August or September, even October, we brought up the question. I brought up the question. I know of a few times. Would they have called that a, let's say it's September 13th, and we looked at some kind of a system that's off of Africa, and they called that a tropical system. I said a tropical storm, and I said back 30 years ago, would they have called that a tropical system, or would they have called that system south of Puerto Rico a tropical system?
Well,
And
you know what,
I
Joe?
would say no. I think not.
Back 30 years ago, they would only get one satellite picture a day from that region, if that much.
Right. Right.
So by the way, I just pinned on the chat board a link to the PDF that the Hurricane Center put up about the 1965-1970 period. That in reanalysis they've added 14, okay, not just one, two, or three, 14 tropical cyclones into the mix. That's a lot over 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So 6 years, 14. That's an average of over 2 storms a year that they didn't analyze as tropical storms at the time, but in post analysis now they put in for some tropical storms. So let's see. Miss Fallerite says, "Can I zoom into Kansas and show the 850 temps tomorrow?" Sure. Just give me a moment here. Let's do that. And let's see. So I will get a north central U.S., which should cover Kansas. Actually, let me see if I can get a better shot, because Kansas is at the bottom of this shot rather than something that's a little bit shows it a bit more. Let's see.
It's kind of scary living in that area, Joe. I'm just reading the convective outlook here for southern Nebraska, south to Oklahoma, and North Texas. And they're talking about, now I've heard of large hail, but they're talking about very large to potentially giant hail. And when they talk about giant hail, folks, they're talking about hail on the order of in excess of 2 to 3 inches in diameter. Probably, not possibly, but probably will occur with any sustained storm, i.e. supercell. Hail, along with the possibility for a couple of tornadoes, possibly an intense tornado, expected beginning late in the afternoon through the early mid-evening. Main questions at this time include both storm coverage and moisture quality, with the latter playing a critical role in both storm coverage and tornado potential. But, rare is it that they ever refer to giant hail in excess of 3 inches and the possibility for intense tornado. I mean, I don't care if it's an F0. To me, any tornado is intense. But if they start talking about intense tornadoes, what are they talking about? F4s, F5s? So you've got the potential, I guess, in that one zone tomorrow for 3-inch or more diameter hail and F4, F5 tornadoes. I mean, that's going to be a really pretty wild zone to be in tomorrow. If you're anywhere near there, good luck.
Yeah, take a look at the 850. I just brought up the 850 for where Kansas is. I use the south central shot, so it shows up better. Look at the FGen tomorrow, Joe, at tomorrow evening in central Kansas at 8 p.m. I mean, it's crazy. It's super strong. The 850 temperature, Miss Fallerite, it starts off tonight. It looks like it's minus 50. It's 15 above.
You might want to bring the map up, Joe.
Okay.
The map is not the FGen map is not up there.
Thanks for telling me. Appreciate it.
I did have a chance to get a glimpse of it, though, and it's no wonder that the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center, has that particular region where the FGen is particularly impressive in an enhanced zone of severe weather, not slight, but enhanced.
That is impressive. Very impressive there. I want to also take a look at I like to look at the 700 millibar to look at the jet streaks, and there are some fairly strong jet streaks of 40 to 50 knots right in that zone in central Kansas, and then it moves into eastern Kansas early Saturday morning. two distinct jet streaks that move across into the eastern part of the state. And you have a pretty powerful upper low that is sitting up to the north in Nebraska that's generating all this. So you certainly have a solid cold trough that's coming into this forcing of let's call it tropical air that is trying to move northward. So that's a very impressive feature here. Yeah, who knows? They may have to go to a moderate risk if before tomorrow morning when they take a look at things. But we will
Well,
leave
if they
it.
don't go for a moderate if they don't go for a moderate risk in the morning tomorrow, I think would more likely they'll probably stay the course for the moment. But when we get into the afternoon hours and they start getting the latest information and radar and everything else, no question in my mind, if things develop the way they are alluding to now, we will see moderate there. And yeah, Mark Teixeira, this would be great news for the storm chasers. Yeah, for the storm chasers who really are into this weather. Yeah, I could just see them all gravitating to that spot. But let's hope that nothing happens to the storm chasers in the aftermath, because
Yeah,
this looks like a kind of a really scary situation. Um, you know,
yeah.
three inch
There've
three
already
inch
there've been a number of
3 inch
instances.
hail 3 inch hail. That if that clunks you on the head, that's it. You're pretty well done. I mean, the heck with the worrying about the tornadic activity. You get hit in the head with a 3 inch. I mean, you feel kind of like Pete Alonso of the Mets, who always seems to be getting hit in the head lately
Yeah.
during these baseball games. You better wear your batting helmet with tomorrow if you're out in that part of the country.
All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy and finish off what's been a good week, and head to our two. Probably won't be on tomorrow, and we won't be on Saturday, and we'll be back on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. But so let's do Briller Jeopardy. Do you have it for tonight?
Yes, I do believe have the questions, which I'm going to get right now. Another edition of. Hold on for a second. I'm getting something from the Philippines. Joe, you want to believe this? I'm going to be giving a talk to the Philippine Astronomical Society, and I have to do it like at 8 o'clock in the morning, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, because that corresponds to like 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening their time.
That's
it,
that's very
it's their,
that's very cool. That's great.
well, I'm certainly not going to take an airplane to give the talk live in the Philippines, but anyway, here is another edition of Briller Jeopardy for Mr. Chiaffi. Category:
Wait.
famous movie.
Before you do, I got
Yeah.
to answer this question. Billy the Kid says, "Do you go to the gym? I noticed a muscle type shirt. I'm 72 and still do 10 sit-ups and push-ups." Yeah. Well, I used to, and I also used to do a lot of walking. I haven't been able to these last couple of months because I've been uh, I've been sick, and I'm still sick. So um, I have a stomach condition. I have Crohn's disease, just to let everybody know. It's no big secret. I'm actually getting my first infusion tomorrow of medication. So hopefully that will, one of the downsides with this, Joe, is that you wind up having you get some stretches where you have no energy. I was going to say you have
Oh
no,
yeah.
I have no will to go
Yeah.
on. No, but you have. I mean, you're just absolutely just drained with energy, and um, I'll sit on the couch watching TV, and I'll wind up, falling asleep uh, out of nowhere. So anyhow, it's been an adventure the last couple of months, just trying to figure out what I can and can't eat. And anyhow, I'm fine. I'm just, now that I finally was able to get my medication underway, start that tomorrow, and hopefully uh, it'll go in remission, and I'll be as good as new when it's all said and done, and I can get back to doing some regular walking and exercising. So anyway, I'm just taking the. I see it's not all about the apocalypse, Billy. Just so you know. Anyhow, go ahead, Joe.
All
Let's
right.
do
For Miss
Briller Jeopardy.
category famous movie quotes, I will give you the quote. You name the movie. Are you ready? Here's
All
quote
right.
number one.
I don't know how I'm gonna
Ready to
do.
go?
I'm not. I don't know how I'm gonna do with this, but go ahead.
All right. Here's quote number one. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Um, I could see her right in front of me, and now her name is on the tip of my tongue. That was from Sunset Boulevard.
That's all you need to say. You don't even need to mention the actor or actress who had said that,
Well, it was the
but
actress,
you are
and
correct.
I cannot. Her face is right in front of me. I can't believe I can't remember her name. I love that movie too. It's a great movie. Hedda Hopper is in that movie, along with William Holden.
Okay.
Why can't I remember the leading character that said that? Oh, this is really bugging me. Hang on a second. I have to I have to Google this. So this is what happens when you're 63.
You
Sunset.
want me to mention the name? Because I've got the
No, no,
name in
no.
front of me
All
now.
right, go ahead. Give me the name.
Norma
Norma
Desmond.
Desmond was. Well, no, that's who. That's
That
the
played
cat.
by Gloria Swanson.
Gloria Swanson. Yes. Norma
Yes,
Des.
yes.
Right. Nora Desmond, which Carol Burnett made famous by going with uh, uh, Norma Desmond uh, instead of Nora Desmond. Anyway,
Delivered by Gloria Swanson as the
Swanson.
driven big screen actress Norma Desmond
I cannot.
in the closing scenes of the 1950 movie Sunset Boulevard.
Right. Another quote
And,
from in that general scene where she says that, she says, "I can't possibly be here before 10 in the morning, and I must be done shooting before 4:30 at night."
oh, lovely,
Anyway,
lovely.
all right, next.
Number 2, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy
Be-
night.
I just watched it Sunday. Betty Davis and All About Eve, which I think is one of the,
Okay, that's
which I would rank as one of the greatest movies ever made. But that's me. It's certainly,
really.
it's certainly the best written movie in terms of the dialogue. Uh,
You
there's
say you say one of the greatest, and in your mind, if you had to pick,
I would say it's in the top. I would say it's in my top five.
okay, to me, the number one movie for me, all the way at the top, no other movie would displace this. The number one movie is, and I think I mentioned this before, is Failsafe, the 1964 movie
Right.
with Henry Fonda and Larry Hagman. You wouldn't think that a movie, a dramatic movie, one of the most dramatic movies I've ever seen, would have Larry Hagman as in one of the top roles. But that is absolutely, in fact, another actor in that who you would not consider to be a great actor and more of a funny man, Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
If you've ever wanted to see Dom DeLuise in a dramatic role, then see that movie. Yeah, that's I suppose I suppose Joe. I've read this somewhere where comedians, funny men, had to start out as serious actors before getting their foot in the door, getting considered as reputable. Walter Matthau, another example of that
Right.
in that movie, Failsafe.
They have to
One of
eat.
these days, Scott Briller, Scott, if you ever wanted to do a Briller Jeopardy on Failsafe, throw it at me. I've seen that movie about 50 times, and I think I know pretty much every nook and cranny and thing about that movie. Anyway, number 3, Joe. I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Right.
Okay, you know what? That's probably a more modern movie, and most of the movies after 1980, I've only seen. I would say probably most of the movies, except for the Godfather movies, I probably have seen the movies after 1970, maybe only once or twice at most. So I'm going to say it sounds like something Martin Sheen would have said in Apocalypse Now.
You're right about the movie. You don't need to mention anything about
Who
the
said it?
actor or the character. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore delivers this line to Captain Willard on the beach after ordering a destructive helicopter strike on the Viet Cong controlled coastal village. Now you're saying to yourself, that's all fine and good. Who plays Lieutenant Bill Kilgore? And I'm trying to find that for everybody here, and I don't see where. So who played Kilgore?
I have no idea.
It says Kilgore. I'd love the smell of napalm in the morning. And it is apocalypse now. Robert Duvall.
Okay.
Robert Duvall as Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore. Yes, the same man who played the secretary or the consigliere in The Godfather was the guy who also delivered that line in Apocalypse Now.
Yep.
All right, how about this? How about this one? This is the stuff that dreams are made of.
Oh God, I know the line. This is the stuff that dreams are made of. Oh, Humphrey Bogart, I think.
Well, again, the
Humphrey Bogart in the stuff that dream. The Maltese Falcon.
the Maltese Falcon is correct. Yes, indeed. So there you go. Um, oh, this is one. I know this one. First of all, I I know the actor who said this line, and I know the name of the movie. Now, this is coming from somebody who's not into movies like Mr. Chiaffi is, but I know. How about this one, Joe? I'm going to try to do my imitation of him. They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Oh, that was Sidney Poitier in
Right.
yeah, and the movie was 1967, I think. And then there was the TV series that they did.
Yeah.
Robert, oh God, the other actor in it too. One in best. Oh God, what's the name of that title? Yeah, I don't remember the title off the top of my head, but it's Sidney
How about
Poitier.
in the unusual? How about in the unusually warm, if not downright hot temperatures during the nocturnal hours?
Right, in Mississippi. Uh, oh God,
But if I mean in the unusually hot conditions
is that
during nocturnal hours.
is that the hint? In the heat of the night.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yes.
There. How about you can't handle the truth?
You you can't handle the truth. Oh boy, that's a tough one. Um, I don't. I honestly I don't have any idea.
Well, probably in Washington, this would serve well in terms of the politics or the politicians in Washington. A few
Uh,
good men.
okay. Yeah, I know a few good men. I think I've seen once, and it didn't really leave an impression on me.
All
You
right.
know,
This
just to be
yeah.
clear, again, just to be clear, if it was made before 19, if it was made before 1960, I know I watch those movies. I'll watch them over and over again. There are a handful of movies done after 1960 that I will watch over and over again, but the list is short. And that list gets even shorter when you get into the 70s, and that list is mostly non-existent from 1980 and beyond. So that's so I love the old movies, particularly the old black and white movies.
Right. Well, how about this? This is only 7 years beyond 1960. So I mean, you might just get it, even though it's a little beyond the your cusp of knowledge here. We rob banks.
We rob banks
Yes. I'll give you a hint. This was a big hit in 1967.
in 1967. Bonnie and Clyde,
Right. There you go. There you go. See,
Warren
just need a
Beatty,
little.
Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway.
And we all know what Betty Davis thought about Faye
Oh
Dunaway,
God, that
right?
is one of the funniest clips I've ever seen. She was on the Johnny Carson show. She was, well into her 70s, and she had a number of medical issues, and she clearly had aged quite a bit. And Johnny Carson asked her if there was anybody in Hollywood in all the years that she's worked that she just didn't like? And she said, without missing a beat, he barely finished the question where she said, $1 million, Faye Dunaway. And then she went on to say, um, there isn't enough time for us to get into everything that is wrong with Faye Dunaway. God, it's just so funny. It was so funny.
Okay, we're coming down the home stretch here. My God, I could do this. Stella! Hey, Stella!
Streetcar.
Yeah, okay.
Streetcar named Desire.
Desire, yeah.
Vivian Lee, Marlon
Um,
Brando.
right, right. How about a boy? Oh, really, really, this is not there was an artsy type film that came out, I think, in the early '60s, and this particular film could have used this particular line in it, but it's not in it. The name of the movie that I was thinking of was Edifice Rex, but the quote here is, "A boy's best friend is his mother."
A boy's best friend is his mother. And I'm sorry,
Right.
you were saying when did this was somewhere in the 60s?
Well, the movie that I was thinking of that would best fit this line was an artsy type film called Edifice Rex. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who Edifice Rex is, look it up,
Right. Well, I mean, it does.
and you'll understand. And you'll
I,
understand why when I see that quote, I say to myself, that would fit Edifice Rex perfectly. But it's not Edifice Rex. It's another weird film that came out.
for some reason, Psycho comes to mind.
And Psycho is the movie.
Okay,
Right.
good.
There you go. Number 10, You Had Me at Hello. This is a movie that's not in your favorite time frame, though. This is a movie that came out more. I'm not sure about the exact year, but I think it was something like 1997 or 98,
You had
sometime in the
me.
90s.
You had me at hello.
Correct.
Okay. Hmm. Oh God, was that? Now I'm trying to remember the year the Meg Ryan movie with the comedian. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. This is kind of a sports
Billy
film,
Crystal.
if that helps you.
But it's kind of a
But
what?
Billy, you're talking about When Harry Met Sally?
Yeah, but I don't remember whether year. Maybe that's too. Maybe it was
No,
that movie was made earlier.
no.
What
This is kind of like
a
a sport
sports
a sport type film.
a
It
sport
deals with
type
sports.
movie? A
Yeah.
sport type movie in the late 90s. Hmm. A sport type movie in the late 90s. You know what, Joe? I don't have a clue.
Jerry Maguire.
Oh, I definitely don't have a clue. I saw I, I saw that movie once, and that was it.
All right. Now we have the two bonus questions. You've done very well for yourself.
Thank you.
Bonus question number one. Well, we'll always have Paris.
Well, we'll always have Paris is Casablanca.
Casablanca. And bonus number two. I want to be alone.
I want to be alone. It's Greta Garbo. Um, but I don't remember which movie she said that in. You know what? I am, I know that when they talk about Greta Garbo and the accolades about how beautiful and what a great actress she was. She only made a handful of films in the 30s, plus whatever she did in the 20s. But the movies that she did, I was not a big fan of hers. I just wasn't. I don't know. Like I just never got her. So I know it's Greta Garbo, but I don't. Um, I want to be alone. I mean, Ninotchka. I don't know.
Oh, you're still working on this?
Oh, I'm sorry. You needed the title of the
I
movie.
didn't, I'm sorry too. It was Grand Hotel.
Oh, Grand Hotel. Okay. All right. Gotcha. Which I've only seen once. I think that the Grand Hotel was like 1930 or 31, something like that. Anyway. Yeah, I didn't do too shabby.
No, not at all. And so until Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel.
Yes, at 11. No, it's not the same bat time. 11 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday.
Yes.
So everybody, enjoy your evening. Have a great Friday and Saturday. We'll see you Sunday morning at 11 a.m. here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Joe and Joe Weather Show.
I got wind of it. See you on Sunday.
Rah.